All right, I'll call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start with the approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting August 14th. Everyone's had a chance to take a look at it. Anybody have any suggestions, corrections? Seeing none, then I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the August minutes.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the August 14th minutes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And we'll move on to our general fund vouchers. 171-80055 through 171-80072. And wire transfers 74-940 through 74-964. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the general fund vouchers as read. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Then we'll move on to our public comments section. I didn't see anybody had their name down. Anybody have anything? Okay, then we'll move on to our new business. The approval of substitute bus driver compensation.
Okay. Similar to the teaching, substitute teaching positions where as a district, and I think it's not just our district, I think it's across the state, but specifically speaking to ours is we have a shortage in substitute bus drivers as well, so I'm proposing an increase in that compensation. So we currently pay $26 per trip for substitute drivers, and then $12.50 per extracurricular activity, and that's per hour. Sorry. So I propose the same increase that we did for the substitute teacher, increase that percentage, which would increase the bus driver rate of to $31 per trip, and then the extracurricular pay would be $13.
I'll make a motion that we increase that.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the substitute bus driver compensation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Then we'll move on to the approval of the teacher employee handbook.
Okay, so I put the copies in there, really, both the next two agenda items. There's minimal changes. The highlighted stuff in the packet are changes. They're pretty much just your dates. Otherwise, everything is staying the same. Relatively new handbook, so no need for a whole lot of changes. So similar to last year, just going to be dates. And I know...
Were there any changes in the amounts for the stipends for the co-curriculars?
No. And what we have is we call multiple manuals, I guess, handbooks, but these are the handbooks that are post Act 10 are considered the contract. So the employee teacher handbook is truly what the term handbook is being used now post Act 10. So this is the teacher's contract, and then the support staff handbook is a support staff contract. Excuse me.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I will move to approve the employee teacher handbook.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the teacher employee handbook. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes, and then we'll move on to the support staff employee handbook. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the support staff employee handbook. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And then we'll move on to a review of the emergency procedures.
Okay, so I know I've discussed or talked about this a little bit, but beginning last year, the process began where we kind of identified that was an area of need, a need to revamp, and then review, revise, and then there were some missing pieces that I felt were missing from the emergency procedures. So this is still, and this will continue, but even right now, this is a working document. So you'll see inside that there's a couple pieces that are not part of it, that haven't been completed yet. And the intention with the safety procedures is that it will always be a working document, and as a safety committee, we'll start reviewing all of the pieces. So what the big changes we used to, which many districts did, we used to have a rainbow packet, it was called, where teachers could just access it during the event of a crisis. A gentleman by the name of Paul Tim, who's nationally known, came in actually to the Wausau district when I was there, and I heard him speak, which is where I got the idea. So we moved away from the rainbow chart, and what we created was, two kind of quick reference documents. So these are the quick reference documents, which we'll go over in 1 second, and then a full manual. And this is, I kind of jokingly call this the dust collector, because it has all of the details in it, the stuff that's good to know, and when teachers have time to look through it. I say that kind of half jokingly, but the quick references are the must knows, the have to know. So in an emergency situation, they're grabbing these. The biggest part that I felt we were missing was the reunification. We didn't have a reunification procedure, so we do what's called a run, hide, fight philosophy, and there's many safety procedures that kind of fall under that. And the most common that you hear is ALICE. It's called ALICE training. It was developed, I believe, after the Colorado incident in '99, and that's where, rather than just going straight into lockdown, locking your doors and barricading everything up, the thought process is if you have enough information and you feel like you can get yourself out of the building with your class, that's what you do. The very last, the second option is then to barricade. If you feel like you can't get everybody out, you barricade the door and you hide. And then the third option, which is always a last resort, is to fight back. And I think that's probably the most misinterpreted. We're not asking our teachers and elementary students to ever fight back if they're in a situation, an unfortunate situation where you have an intruder. So anyway, so we have the emergency manual with all the detailed procedures. We are adding some procedures that we've never had before, which is one that I referenced was the reunification procedures, and then there's a couple other procedures in there that we've never had before that are new to the district. So we'll go over that in a little bit. I'll just explain these as well. So here's the reunification card. I just threw that in there for you guys to see. In the event where we did have to evacuate, there was no plan in place where if kids and teachers ran out of the building, how to get everybody back. And having been through a process where we created that in my previous district, we went through that here, and these are kind of, this is the big item as part of that process. We identified a location where we would implement the reunification procedures, and then each parent would have to fill this out as they pick up their kids from that site, and there's a process in place within this manual. Red and green cards are used for lockdown or fire procedures, just to identify whether or not you are missing kids or you have all your kids. So the main thing that and then there's one other a bomb threat checklist for this goes anybody that's by a phone. This is what the procedure is to follow while they're on the phone with that individual, to keep them on the phone as long as possible. So these are the kind of the most these two white cardstock pieces are the most important pieces to the emergency plan, in my opinion. If everything else got scrapped and you had these, I feel like these are the two most essential in the time of a crisis. So I'm going to actually ask Mrs. Funk to share the office staff one. Mrs. Funk was part of the creation process with the admin team and she's currently going through her admin classes. So she had requested some projects to be involved with, and we got her involved in this, and she was a huge help. So I'm going to let her kind of speak to the quick reference.
Sure. First of all, I feel really lucky. Thank you so much to the admin team for allowing me to be part of this. Something that I need to do is complete 3 projects by June, and so I got a jump start in August by being a part of the safety procedures team, and then also working on the coach's handbook with Mr. Ernst. So if you just want to take a look at the office staff quick reference guide, that's the first one I believe that you have on top.
Has mostly red.
Yeah, mostly red, which is really pretty nice. These are intended to be in the office area for secretaries. And what's really nice about this is, again, at a quick glance, you can look at what the procedure should be. But it's also nice in case there is a substitute or somebody who's not normally in the office, they'll be able to take a glance at this and say, how should I proceed? So at the top, we have first aid procedures and fire procedures. Again, directed toward what the office staff should do. Then we have tornado and severe weather procedures. The red is something that you might hear somebody in the office say. So that's supposed to be a dialogue that they're saying over the PA system, and that's why it's in red and it's bold. Evacuation procedures are to the right of that, and then down below we have the hold and the lockdown procedures. The hold being that procedure where we are essentially either practicing or we are searching out something that might not be right in the school building before we would ask for a true lockdown where there's an intruder. Right down below you can see the rally point and the reunification site, so we have those very visible for the office staff. Do you have any questions about this?
So the intention behind the quick reference as well with the red highlighted is exactly verbatim what you would read over the PA. So in the event where we had a severe weather situation, a tornado, we went into a tornado watch, and all three of us were out of the building, and Angie was, Mrs. Funk was looking, in charge during that time, or even someone that's there. I know I talked about this in my previous district. You don't know how anyone is going to respond during a crisis situation, so it eliminates any of that rambling that we all kind of have a potential to do during those type of situations. So it takes all of the thinking out of it, which I know it sounds kind of funny when you're talking about safety plans, but you do want to eliminate as much thinking as possible when you're in this type of setting. So you're just reading it verbatim right on the PA system.
Looks good. What did we have before? What did you do before this?
There wasn't.
Just to bring one of the old ones in?
I didn't bring one of the old ones. It was a rainbow chart, so it had kind of the procedures listed on a kind of a layered chart.
Okay.
So, and the manual is much more detailed, but you can't have all of that like in a quick. It's a little overwhelming. So it's good stuff to know, like, but it's a lot to look at. So, and then there's one. So this is specific to anybody in kind of a leadership role. Administration, secretarial staff, somebody that's left in charge like counselors, or somebody pursuing admin like Mrs. Funk if she's looking for hours, and we're all at CISA. She would get a blue folder for admin. Staff are going to get red folders, and theirs looks a little bit different, so theirs is with less red, but this is a quick reference staff. I do want to mention on the back it has both building maps. So the intention, even in my last district, we talked about laminating them and making them more durable, but we decided not to, so that way staff can now look in their manual, figure out where they're supposed to be, write, which exit, maybe take a marker and write what exit they have during tornado, so that way if they have a sub, it's easily accessible for a sub and they don't get caught off guard. I should say exit for a fire, not a tornado. And then the map for the senior high as well. So then we have the quick reference staff, which has the not as much red because they're not going to be doing anything over the intercom, reading anything. But what's in red for them is more of the important details. First aid, they're dialing 0 for the main office to report an injury, provide who, what, where the accident or emergency is located, and the necessary personnel and or first aid team call the scene. So less detail, but they absolutely need to know is the most difficult thing with creating emergency plans or procedures are you can't have a plan or procedure for every incident. Every incident is so unique and so different that sometimes you get caught up into the what ifs. And when we roll this out to staff, there's going to be a lot of questions, and I think there's going to be, we're going to work through this, and I've given the direct now to both Mr. Gillis and Mr. Peterson that all staff or every building staff meeting they're going to dedicate 5 minutes at the beginning, which sounds redundant. But I think when you have new staff coming in, you forget the fact that they're brand new staff. They're worrying about classroom management. They're worrying about, where the lunch is. They're worrying about who is this person on my email. Kind of all those new pieces to the puzzle when they get hired, and you lose sight a little bit of the newbies that come into the district. So anyway, this has kind of all the absolute must-knows in these certain situations. Another added thing that we haven't had in the past are the lunch procedures, because that's, depending on your district and building, can be up to about 30% of your day sometimes, depending on how many lunches you have. We're not quite that, because we have 2 lunch periods in this building in elementary.